Y'all ready for this? Wow! Is that a thing?
Definitely not how that song goes, but
I don't know a lot.
who cares?
I'm here to talk about history, and I don't know much about anything.
Even history.
Not even history. Not even that song. Hey, come to me for all your Frankia facts.
Yes,
No.
pardon my yawn. I'm very sorry.
Apparently, I was not being funny.
Welcome back, everyone. Episode 21. We're so excited you're back after that jumbled mess of 18, 19, and 21. 17, 18, 19, and 21.
Yeah. We are on 21, though.
20.
20?
See? It's even confusing now.
It was a bit jumbled. But today, we're only talking about one king.
One guy, finally. I love it when that happens.
I'm so happy because the research isn't like, oh God, we did this wrong.
Been feeling like that for quite a while now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But not today.
Not today.
Today becomes much clearer.
Much. Today we are talking about Charles III the Fat.
Charles le Grand. I made that up. No one calls him that, but
I like that version though.
Charles III also. He was born June 13th of 839.
Yes, he was.
What you doing there?
And right before we get started, I would like to call attention to something we talked about in the last episode.
She moves things onto my screen, and it generally means I'm supposed to read them.
It does, doesn't it?
And I'm like, what? You're moving things. Why are you moving things?
She's like, oh no, I have to read out loud. So
Okay.
last episode, we made a couple comments on Louis the Stammerer's eyebrows.
Did we?
They were huge. And we posed the question,
I remember this.
when exactly did mankind start shaping their eyebrows?
Mm.
We have answers
I'm
thanks
so
to
glad that we do.
thanks to our research assistant.
I feel like I'm so like cynical that I have this eyebrow is just permanently higher than the other.
You're just always like, I don't know how I feel about
Could
that.
be poor shaping. Who knows?
Anyway, special thanks to Justin for
Our
letting
number
us
one
know.
fan.
number one.
You bring a smile to our faces.
Thanks. Caitlin, tell us about eyebrow shaping and its origins. He gave us a lot more info, but I had to shrink it.
Got it. Okay.
Go.
Eyebrow shaping has been around. Could you move it just slightly that way?
I could. There you go.
Thank you. All right. Eyebrow shaping has been around for thousands of years.
Ooh.
The history of eyebrow shaping goes as far back as the ancient Egyptians. Let us start with eyebrows of Horus, 3500 BC to 2500 BC. Both Egyptian men and women wore makeup for its supernatural powers.
I didn't know that.
As an homage. Homage?
I think it's homage.
Well, it's called homage, but I am confused by the article choice. As a homage or as an homage
Homage.
to the god Horus, heavily lined eyes were the focal point of the face, which meant that eyebrows needed to be equally as prominent. They darkened, arched, and elongated brows by painting on carbon and black oxide substances. Now,
Cleopatra.
I know that. Now Cleopatra was most definitely the pioneer of the bold eyebrow look. What is the word now? What is the relevance of the word now in that sentence?
Nowadays, we only know about the look because she is the most famous for having it.
See, commas are helpful.
We got this info from marieclaire.com. Beauty, makeup, eyebrows throughout the years.
That does sound
If you guys enjoyed that fact, we can bring you a new eyebrow fact every week.
We could.
We could.
I see them.
Yeah, they're pretty funny. Just throwing it out there. It's an option.
Got it.
Anywho, back to our actual episode. Now that you all are slightly more educated in the history of the eyebrow.
Okay. So back to Charles the Fat.
Back to Charles the Fat.
Again, he was born June 13th, 839. You'll remember from the last episode, Louis the Stammerer died. And
he did.
Now Charles the Fat is the ruler of all Francia.
Louis the Stammerer died, gave it to his two sons, Louis the Third and Carloman the Second, from episode 20.
Louis the Third of France, not
of France.
The younger.
Louis the
There
Third
were two of them.
It's true. It was very confusing.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one that died after chasing after a girl with amorous
intent, guy.
Yes. And in that episode, we also brought you Duke Bozo, who was the first among the Franks to be freely elected, who was not a royal member.
Elected as
election.
a duke?
No, as their king in Provence.
God, I don't remember.
I think it was Provence. I don't know. That's what I got for our lovely recap from the last episode.
Thanks. So Charles the Fat, or also known as Charles III, was the last Carolingian emperor of legitimate birth. And as we mentioned, he now rules over all the Franks, and he will be the last to rule over what is currently considered all of the Franks.
Mm-hmm.
What you got?
He was possessed as a child.
So he was usually considered sickly.
Mm-hmm.
He was known to be kind of sickly, repeatedly ill, and actually, I guess now, so historians believe that he was actually epileptic.
Probably.
So there was an incident of demonic possession.
Yes. Foaming at the mouth, and then was taken to the church altar.
Mm-hmm.
This really hit his dad hard and him, and they were both very devout, God-fearing. They practiced unceasingly prayer and song, always intent on celebrating the praises of God, which would help get rid of his demonic possession.
Which is
It's interesting at that time thinking that's what that is.
Yeah, which is very likely
You know?
just seizures. He was having seizures.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Yeah. Due to his sickliness, and he basically outlived everyone else, right? So he was born later. I don't know that he lived longer in years, but...
This is the youngest son of Louis the German and him. So.
Yes. So all of the lands basically fell into his lap. He just kind of absorbed land.
People kept dying, and he just kept getting it while he's over here at the altar having his seizures.
Yes. Here is our hunk of a man, Charles the Fat.
Oh, I'm like, where?
Where?
There
Is he a hunk? Look at those eyebrows.
He was married to a woman named Richgard. But they did not have any children. He did have a son, Bernard. With Lady of the Evening.
Ooh.
Who we will soon learn he just was assistant and trying to put on the throne because it was his only child.
It was his only child. So somewhere in 882, Charles held an assembly to deal with the great Viking army that was still taking over
the area.
Yes. They gathered at Worms to discuss the Viking problem. And then they attacked the encampment, which was nearby, which then made everybody like, okay, maybe we can negotiate something here. So the chief of the Viking army, Godfred, converted to Christianity.
We're on a roll today.
We really are.
On a roll today.
There were two chiefs of the Viking army. One of them, Godfred, converted to Christianity and married the daughter of Lothair II. and the other was successfully bribed by Charles.
Bribed to do what?
Leave. Bio.
See ya.
Was it 2 episodes back we talked about NSYNC? Bye bye bye. Bye bye bye. That's all I got for that.
Did we talk about that? No.
What?
That was no.
So
We did not talk about that. We actually had some technical issues.
Oh, we
and
did.
That was on one of our is the sound working correctly?
Yeah.
Never see the light of day 2-minute clips.
No. 2-minute clips of insanity and
So
rambling.
You will not hear us singing in sync other than that one moment that
just happened when I had a brain fart and misremembered my life.
Yeah. Anyway.
What is Worms, you may ask? It is a city named Borbetomagus.
There's
It's
no
in
N
yellow.
in there. Borbetomagus.
Yeah.
Borbetomagus.
It's a Celtic city name meaning water meadow and is one of the oldest cities in Northern Europe. I see worms pop up a lot and it just makes me think of little wormies. And I struggled with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to tell you all what it actually was. Although I'm very happy I don't have to say the other name that it is because I wouldn't be able to.
Every time worms comes up, you should say
Borbetomagus. Borbetomagus.
Borbetomagus.
All right. So in 885, just like 3 years after Godfred was, converted to Christianity, married into the royal family-ish, Charles became very suspicious of him and his powerful connections and casually called for a conference where everybody gathered and then, bam, executed. Ooh, yeah, just like that.
I wasn't expecting that. I didn't read that.
Like I missed that one.
Okay.
He was executed and all of his helpers, which was just like the one guy. I said all of it like it was a ton of people. Mm-hmm. He had a ton of people, but the other one dude who was like the leader.
Got it.
Blinded.
Mm-hmm.
Lost those eyeballs. Sent to a monastery.
Wowza.
Yeah.
Hey.
Got brutal there for a second. Somewhere in that time period, Charles lost touch with his nephew Arnulf.
Oh, yeah, our buddy Arnulf from episode 19.
Yep. Still hanging out, still around. And at that point, they were all on friendly terms. And then suddenly weren't.
Yeah. Backtracking a smidge. In 885, along with the Red Wedding, that I did not know about, Charles starts trying to have Bernard recognized as the heir to the throne.
Mm-hmm.
So 885, he is this what we talked about, right? The assembly in Worms.
It is one of them. Yes.
Yeah.
He held several.
Yeah. So we had another one
to get his son.
Borbetomagus, also known as Worms, in October, where Pope Hadrian, which I feel like we talked about him before.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. Well, so he was bringing the Pope down to legitimize his son as the heir.
Mm-hmm.
But the Pope actually died on the way there. So this was attempt 1 to legitimize Bernard that failed because the Pope died.
Because of death.
Mm-hmm.
How did he die?
He just died
Travels?
traveling.
Mm.
But
I imagine that's not a safe trip.
Road. Yeah.
Mm.
So then a couple of years later, a little while later, he's just continuing to attempt to legitimize Bernard. So he
really needs a successor to the throne, and at this point, he's
got
the one.
Given his sickliness, it's unlikely that he will have another child. Him and his wife have not had a child, so he's attempting to solidify the succession, but he only has the snow,
Yeah, and as one king of whole Francia, you'd think that he'd be able to pull that off and say, "No, this is who I want to succeed me."
Yeah,
but.
Those pesky nobles, if you remember.
Mm-hmm. Those pesky nobles.
So he had the term, the Latin term for offspring, inserted to charters that he was issuing.
Okay.
whatever you do, issuing charters.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think so. You communicate to your nobles that way, especially when you're ruler of the whole of Francia.
So he started using the term offspring instead of like children, I guess, to blur the water. I think I just combined terms there, but to blur the lines or muddy the water of what may or may not be considered offspring.
Mm-hmm.
Again, an attempt to
legitimize. If everybody's already thinking he is.
Yeah. So, well, and another legal avenue where you could argue that even if he's legitimate, he is offspring.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 886, he tried to meet the next pope to help negotiate
his
legitimizing Bernard again. And then the pope canceled and didn't show up. So another failed.
Pope totally canceled.
Totally canceled. Did not show up.
Yep. And in that same year, he was over there trying to negotiate for his son. He ended up leaving the Viking attack on Paris to Odo to deal with. And Odo kept writing to him, you have to come, you have to come, you have to help with.
Who's Odo?
Odo is a count who is somewhere in Paris. And he was left with the city's
Odo is a nobleman.
Yes. So he was left to keep the city safe.
Okay.
Charles over there trying to get his son legitimized, more focused about that than his people's safety.
Okay.
At least this is the way it's, perceived. So by the time Charles does finally head back to Paris and say, fine, we'll deal with this after the other pope declines to see him. Is that what you said?
He canceled his trip.
Nope.
Maybe because of the Vikings.
Maybe too many Vikings. Anyway, so by the time Charles arrives, instead of helping Paris, he sent his troops to Burgundy, which was in revolt, and left the Vikings to kind of settle around Paris. And I think they sat there for a whole winter and then finally paid them off to leave, which just
old
made
Ragnar
him...
and Rollo.
All of them.
Yeah.
It just made him look really weak to the Franks. The fact that he was still pining after everyone to get his son legitimized, and it just wasn't working through really no fault of his own or others. People were dying or canceling trips, but he didn't go help the city when he should have. And then when he did go up there, he just sent his troops somewhere else. And then he tried to negotiate and pay them off, which just made him look really weak. And it looked like he was begging everybody. And his negotiations made him look spineless and incompetent, which are not great things to be if you're a king.
Yeah. No, people don't tend to follow the spineless and incompetent.
They do not.
So somewhere we're nearing the end, and somewhere near the end, one of his cousins, who is actually Bozo's wife.
Yeah.
Travels to, he lives in Paris, you said?
Yes, Bozo.
Okay. No.
No.
Charles lives in Paris. Who lives in?
Count Odo?
Bozo. Where does Charles the Fat live? That's what I'm asking.
I don't know where his main stay is. I didn't write it down.
I thought you were saying that. Okay. I'm confused. I thought you were saying Paris is where he was staying because he was...
No, he was called to Paris.
Oh, and he went to Burgundy instead?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
That's why everybody was mad.
Anyway, wherever this man lives in Francia.
It was in Francia. We know that.
His cousin, who is Bozo's wife, comes to basically plead for protection for her son, Louis the Blind. Of course, his name's Louis. So after all of the attempts to legitimize Bernard as heir to the throne, he eventually actually makes Louis the Blind his heir because he is a blood relative. He's his nephew.
Okay, and legitimate since no one would accept his own son.
Exactly. So cousin, her name's Ermengarde, wife of Bozo, shows up, wants protection for Louis the Blind. And so Charles does confirm Louis as his heir, may have even adopted him. But he confirms him as his heir and lets him live at court.
Yeah.
And abandons his plans to legitimize Bernard.
Finally gave up.
Mm-hmm.
He sure did.
Yeah, he did. So, here's my notes on Odo. Hello.
Odo.
Sorry.
She knows things.
For the pause, I was just a little bit out of order.
That's okay.
What you did. So, anyway, at this point, again, we're reunited, and now we have an heir, Louis.
Louis the Blind.
And then our buddy Arnulf resurfaces.
He does. Arnulf pops up. I told you they weren't on good terms, right? And he gets a bunch of the Frankish nobles together and deposes his uncle, Charles the Fat, in November of 887 under threat of military action.
Yep.
Charles agreed because, why that are all out war.
Remember, he's also sickly and epileptic / demon
People
possessed.
don't like him at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think I called him spineless and incompetent.
Yes, those were the words you used.
Yeah. He finally agreed to an involuntary retirement, but not without first chastising his nephew for asking for the treachery. And then he asked for a bunch of fancy stuff like royal villas and in his retirement, which Arnulf granted him.
He did. But he had them for a grand total of 6 weeks before he died on January 13th of 888.
What a good call for Arnulf to...
So he's like, fine, I can give him up for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So, but under Arnulf's very, very quick rule, what is the word I'm looking for?
Brief?
Yes, thank you.
I don't think I've ever actually given you the right word.
That is the exact word I was looking for.
Yay.
Arnulf's brief rule, the entire finally brought back together Francia falls apart again.
Yes.
So we end up in 5 separate successor kingdoms, which, as we have muddled through over the last several episodes, never come back together. So we end up essentially with Eastern Francia and Italy, who end up staying with Arnulf, but they eventually become the German and Italian monarchies. They never come back into the Francia fold.
Yeah.
So that is the end of them for the foreseeable future on this podcast.
So since we won't be discussing Arnulf again, I would like to tell you real quick that he died. They all died, but this one. He suffered a stroke while on his way to another battle and had an infestation of pubic lice, which apparently attacked his eyelids. And was apparently like a huge thing that was running rampant in that region. Seriously.
This may be a stupid question, but how does one's pubic lice end up in one's eyelashes?
They just attack other areas of the body with hair, including eyelashes. Basically, it made it impossible for him to rule effectively.
I mean, I feel like it wouldn't be that hard to get them out of there.
No, apparently it is. Just anyway, I had to tell you because it was really upsetting.
That is upsetting.
Yes.
Okay.
I had to tell you and everyone else.
I had to tell the world. And by the world, we mean the few of you that are listening.
Hi.
And watching.
You all know about it too.
Yes. Okay, so we now have Italy is Arnulf. You have Rudolph. Do you want to talk about Rudolph?
I don't know anything about him.
Oh.
Do you?
Nope, but he's one of the sub-kingdoms.
Yep.
And that is, I'm fairly sure, Switzerland, so I'm sure that's something that will be breaking off into their own monarchy.
At some point.
In Switzerland. And we will now be breaking off into West Francia only, which is what continues the French line.
So Odo, our count,
who we discussed a bit ago, will be the new ruler. Now that Arnulf couldn't hold it together.
Nope.
He will be the first ruler of a new dynasty known as the Robertian dynasty.
Ooh.
So stay tuned for episode 22, where we break into a new dynasty.
Yeah, new dynasty. What? All right.
Very excited.
I think we're ready for the relevant tidbits. Yeah.
Could possibly be on number 4. Why is this so confusing for me?
Oh, you kill me.
You've done so
It's
many.
actually number 6. Sorry, YouTube. It is number 6.
I was like, how could we possibly only be on number 4?
Because we are not on number 4. We are on 12 Bizarre Medieval Trends by Francis White. Number 6, not 4, Hairless Faces. All very relevant too.
From livescience.com.
Yes, that too.
Thank you. All right.
Tell us about those faces.
While today many women spend money to accentuate their eyelashes, it was completely different in the Middle Ages. According to Margaret Shaw's book, Women and Gender in Medieval Europe, an encyclopedia, Routledge, 2006. Because the forehead was seen as the central point of their faces, women would remove their eyelashes and eyebrows in order to accentuate it. Some were so committed they would pluck their hairlines to achieve a perfectly oval, bald face. I feel like I've seen that somewhere.
I've seen women in, like, they're portrayed that way.
Shaved really far back. I have seen that somewhere.
And I just wondered, man, she's an unfortunate looking person.
Yeah.
That was on purpose.
I mean, I have a high forehead, but
don't tell me about it. I know all about high foreheads.
That's incredible.
Yeah. I would not want to make it bigger.
Mm-mm.
Shave it.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Very.
What?
Hairless faces.
Yowza.
Okay.
Well, thanks for sticking around, guys.
Sticking around.
You can find us at royalmalarkey.com. Check out
our. We should just do this in unison.
Yes. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube network, Aversion TV.
Please go find us. If you are listening on your podcast platform, please go watch us on YouTube. Also, where you can find us at Aversion TV Network. And please, 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 please hit the subscribe button.
And like this video.
Yes, please. And comment.
Yes.
We like comments.
We love comments.
And we do also love to be rated and reviewed on iTunes if you are a steadfast podcast only listener.
Yep. And if you're listening through the podcast, the link to our Aversion Network is in the description below.
Aversion TV Network.
Aversion TV Network. It is. One last thing. Special thank you to my cousin Justin, our research assistant.
Earlier.
Yes.
Very helpful.
Always so helpful.
We appreciate it.
We love you.
So very much.
You're the best.
Okay, we'll see you next week on episode 22 with Odo and the Robertian dynasty.
New dynasty, new week. I could come up with other things to say, so yeah. Toodles. Sometimes I fail in life.
You haven't stopped recording yet.
I know.
Oh.
It's like she's always trying to call me out on something. Whatever. Just bye. Bye. Toodles.